Kia ora. I'm Matt and I'm building a Sopwith Camel. I've been fairly busy the last couple of weeks, but not in work that results in anything significant to show. Larger stuff I've already been doing. So what I'm currently doing is about to cut another beam of timber. So I'll show you the remainder of the stack. So I hope you can see that in the light. So the 11 pieces of 10 pieces of timber there you can see was 13 a couple of days ago. I managed to get rid of 2 more, mostly into firewood, and I'm about to cut up another one which is currently on the saw bench here. I've already chopped the black ends off it so I can see what the grain looks like, and this one looks vaguely promising. The last 2 are pretty much firewood. This one looks quite interesting. I've determined that this side here has got relatively horizontal grain. You can make it more horizontal if you wanted to, but I'll cut it as is in the first cut to about there. And walking down, I've marked this up as I typically do. So there's some ugliness going on here. I don't quite know what that is. Another one here, about halfway down the log, 3/4 of the way down. There's another one going through here on an angle. An old borer hole, and a couple more spike knots. Couple of knots. And moving down this side, you can see the rough angle these things are taking. So one cuts through from this side through, ends up here. So this part here of that strip I'm talking about probably won't be much good. Don't care about the borer hole. As you can see, it's only on the edge. There's another one cutting through here, but we may end up missing it. There's a knot here and a knot here, but they could be spike knots terminating halfway through. That one is quite a major one. That one, and of course there's ugliness, and another old borer hole. But largely I think we'll end up getting some useful pieces of timber out of this thing. Not spar length, but useful nonetheless. So you can see how nice the grain looks. It's looking fairly stable. A little bit wavy, but you get that with trees. That won't be any good to us anyway. There we go. That's partly what's going on with that. But we'll see more about that once we get into it. So yeah, so this video is pretty much going to be me taking apart another piece of timber and getting this uncut timber down. So with a bit of luck I can start exposing spar timber shortly, to give you an idea. The ones you can see with green dots hopefully have got spar timber in it. Having said that, one of the ones I just cut up also had a green dot, and the grain was too far apart to be useful. So it basically became firewood, and of course it's difficult to determine with that black paint on the end just how dense the grain is. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Cool, right, I'll crack on. That's split down the middle. Took 2 passes. One got it to there, down the biggest chunk, and then a 20mm high saw blade just to get the last little bit done. So the first thing to notice is the bow in the right hand piece, which is obviously undesirable, but I think that will rectify itself once we take a few mil off this side. That'll remove the tension that's on this side, or expansion that's on this side, and straighten the whole thing out a little bit. And the other thing we'll do as well is we'll identify the knotty bits where it's detrimental to the timber underneath, and we'll chop those out. So what we'll end up with is several smaller sections as opposed to one long length on this side. The other thing we need to do is we need to have a look to see what the state of the timber is on the inside. So let's bring this across, flip that over very carefully. Cool. And this one. I'll put these 2 together. Cool. So we'll start on this end. Too close. Cool. So those are burn marks from the blade, saw blade. They're okay. It's obviously the knot going through there. Knots here, indicating that. Oops. So I'll just hold this. So I'll cover this up a little bit, nothing none of it. So those two are from these two knots. So obviously it's there. No sign of that one, so that one obviously penetrates all the way through. Yeah, and it does. In fact, it comes out in the bottom there. A bit unusual to have branches in the same area moving in two different directions, to be honest. But here's what it is. That's trees for you. And this one obviously comes out the bottom as well. So moving on down. Looking good, and we get to this point. So that obviously comes out through there, which means from there down to there, in a vertical line from this point, will be pretty much useless. So I'm able to capture that, but nothing from there. And impacting that also will be any deviation in grain. So moving on, no sign of that spike knot, that one there. So that probably terminates somewhere in the middle. Moving on, this piece probably goes all the way through. Yep, there you go, there's the other tag down the bottom. So that's going to form one of our cut points, because this will be useless all the way through. So probably about there to about there will be cut out. This piece, okay, it's just a corner piece, that's alright. Over that. Moving on through. Here's just another spike knot. Comes out there. That knot there was obviously this one. Just cut out the corner. So from the end, moving through, can ignore that. We can ignore that effectively at the moment. I might need to pay some attention later, but not for this cut. We can, I think, ignore this one. Yep. We can ignore that one to here. So the first cut's going to be here. So I'll just grab my belt out. So the first one's going to be so that's all toast. So moving through. That's pretty grim, but I'm going to ignore that for the time being because you've still got all that timber there, which may be useful. And of course it gets wider as you get towards the bottom. So if you think of it as like a, I don't know, a wonky rectangle going down. Okay, that one goes all the way through, I think. Yep, it does. And these ones and this one go in two different directions. So that's pretty much screwed most of the timber from there. So we'll cut it off very close to this knot. Cool. So, looking down the log, about here, through the first cut, so probably about 1.5 meters, then 1.5 meters beyond that as well. It's not all perfect timber, but it's a good starting point. Now the other thing to pay some attention to is, where are we? This stuff here. Let's put that felt out. Just going to turn this over a little bit. Cool. And that's a resin pitch hole on both sides. So effectively when we do a next cut after the first one, it'll be to cut that out all the way along this particular length. And there's another one right here by the pitch hole, which is why that looks so hideous with all the wonky stuff going on underneath. Might have been a tree injury or something. Can't see any other deformations or problems with it, but there might be more stuff come out once we strip that off. So cool. So let's move back down to the end. For the moment, it also looks like there's a bit of a hook on this bigger beam as well. Head down towards the end. I'll deal with that later as well. So for the moment, this big beam's going back in the stack while I concentrate on the smaller one. Get this one cut up in size and ready to go into the good timber. Then I can come back to this one and assess this one a bit more and figure out what I'm going to cut with that. What I might do is I might put the remaining timber, or the timber I get out of this that's useful, actually into a pile so you can see it at the end. and just so I can document it, I'm going to tape measure. This beam is the same size as this one, which is 4 inches by 6 inches by 4.5 meters. I might put a little thing on there saying how many cubic meters of timber there is in that. Then we'll work out what I actually get out of it. Right, crack on. Right, I've chopped out those 2 pieces. They're the top ones on the block here, on the firewood stack. So they're gone. And we're now working on the 2 long pieces which remain. And the first one, I've skimmed to take that messy piece off and get rid of the resin patch. And what I've discovered is, wow, it's a lot more extensive than I thought. I need to go a little bit deeper to get rid of that resin pocket, the remnants of that. But more concerning is the black stain that I can see up here. That's more concerning. So I need to go deeper to get rid of that. That borehole still exists, but who knows where that goes. We can't really plan for that at the moment. We'll just take off what we need to and figure that out later. So I'm going to go probably take off another 5mm of this and just see how that leaves us here. At this point there's also another decision to be made, although I already know what it is, but you could choose to cut this off here, isolate that section, retain that part as being pretty substantial, pretty good. The grain's not too bad, there's a bit of a wave going on here. It's not too bad right up to the end. And retain this half at the existing width, or plane the entire lot down so get a nice clean piece of timber of a reasonable length. It's really hard to know what to do in these situations. In this case, because of this wavy grain here, I'm going to plane off the entire surface. Not plane, saw off the entire surface again. Take another 5mm and see what happens with this black staining that I can see. And that's really interesting. Beautiful in a I don't even want to see it again kind of way. But it is what it is. Oh, the other thing I found was another pitch pocket. This particular tree might have been prone to it, but I couldn't see it from the outside. As you see, I couldn't see it there. There's no indication of it, none at all. So when you hear of spruce having hidden pitch pockets, that's an example of one that wasn't obvious when I first cut it. And there's no sign of it on here, so I've obviously cleared that. Right, okay, shave another piece off the top of this. Alright, got the next 5mm off. So you can see lots of staining going on here. Throughout this entire through this piece. And turn this up. There's still staining on the inside of this one. So at this point I'm getting a little bit more concerned about wasting good timber at the other end. So my inclination now is to plane the other 2 sides, or rather saw the other 2 sides, get the fresh surface. See if this arrives anywhere near the surface, because if this bends and goes back towards here, I can get rid of it just by planing a little bit more off the sides. But otherwise, if it doesn't, if it just seems to disappear, I'm going to cut it at that point. Shave this off until it's okay, and retain this piece as is. So next actions, I'll cut that side, shave that side off, make that a nice surface. Then this side, which will help sort out, not only give a nice surface, but remove some of the tension that's in there, and help remove any bowing. And then reassess, but likely I'm going to cut through that borer hole there as being a nice convenient point, and then treat this piece separately to that piece. Right, crack on, do that. Right, I've just planed the other 2 sides. I still have this top surface to do. That dodgy stuff's still there on the end here. And one thing I was interested in was what this borer hole does. You can't really tell from the outside where it goes, but I've come across occasions like this where it sticks very close to the line which I'm actually cutting. Not all the time obviously, but sometimes, enough times to just take it into account. Also gives an idea how deep these darn things go in a relatively short space of time. I would have zapped that pretty quickly after I got it, so it would have been maybe a week's worth of work there for a borer. Actually said that way, it doesn't seem like that much, but so, yeah, they go a long way in. They can ruin some really good timber. But this one's quite close to the edge. It's within a few millimeters. Receives quite a lot of good timber on this side of it. So what to do now? I suspect I'll have to take off another 10 mil of that in order to get to clear timber beyond it. That's what my gut instinct is telling me, just based on the amount of surface decay that I can see. Still a little bit of resin showing through here. That's another issue, so I reckon there's at least another 10 mil of that. So despite this actually being close to the edge, I'm still going to cut there. It's a convenient spot. I'll treat this piece separate to that piece. And this piece will still be of quite a substantial size. So that's what we're going to do from here. Cut through there, deal with that side. I might cut a little bit further on. Is that a bit of a ghost mark? I think it is. Okay, new plan. I'll cut through here about 50 millimeters beyond it. Cool, that's the new plan. Right, I'll do that and come back to you. Right, I took nearly 17, nearly 20 mil off this piece to get to good timber. So I took this one off and discovered this underneath. So more resin, some dark shadow, more dark shadow, and enough dark shadow that I'm thinking is still going fairly deep. It's not traces, that's fairly substantial. So took the next one off, and this looks nice and clean. Nice and clean, but I must have judged it well, because on this face, more resin, so dark shadow along there, which isn't matched here, and I'm carefully checking for that. Yeah, and it looks like I'm now dealing with most of this borer. Seems to duck in a little bit there, but it doesn't come out the bottom. So I probably got to the end of it there. So yeah, so I think that's enough of that one. These can be relegated to firewood, and this one can go with the other good piece. I'm going to ignore that till it comes to actually using this piece of timber for something, at which point I'll have to take that into account, that knot into account, and this knot over here. Now you can see it's wavy here, but opposite that knot, it's quite straight. So I'll take all of that into account when I decide what piece I'm going to make out of this. And the grain density is fine all the way through. It's good. Right, put this with the other piece. So far we have two pieces. Cool. Right, deal with this piece next. Right, the second piece, I've got another pitch pocket here. Resin pocket there to deal with, and you're probably going to find the same sort of thing going on. And there's this piece here as well, which is another pitch pocket. It actually caused those as well. So I'm going to deal with those, which probably means I'm going to chop this one around about here as well, and maybe over this knot. A bit too early to tell at this stage. My first eye was glanced over this sawn face to see if I've used that as the bottom. Through the camera. And it hooks up a little bit at the bottom on the right. That's a function of me using two passes to saw it. A bit of a ridge there, which I can take off of the plane, and a bit of a ridge there and there, which I can take off of the plane. But before I decide to do that, which of course is more work, let's have a look at the other side. See how flat this one looks. So I'm trying to look through the camera and using the eyeball at the same time. That actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to use this side as the flat side, and I'm going to trim that face and that face. Just slightly, and see what I come up with. Then once those are done, then I can do the underface, get that done, then take it from there. Well, this piece got quite a bit of interesting stuff going on. So I've surfaced that side, this side, and this side, and now this side. So it's all four sides surfaced. I only took a thin sliver off this just to see what was under it. And it's got a lot of interesting stuff. Not the kind of interesting stuff you want in the aircraft timber, but interesting nonetheless. So here we've got splits. That was caused by stress through excessive moisture in the core and drying out at the top, and the wood not being able to cope with the contraction. So rather than contract more, because it can't, because of the excess of timber in the core, it splits. And that was the case over the start of last summer. I've just moved this timber here to where I am now, away from a much cooler, more humid climate into the start of a really hot summer. So the outside dried out, cracked, and I've sent out in a few other pieces of timber as well. And that's the cause of those. I've since had problems, as you've seen, in other timber where now the core is equalized and we're heading into winter, or in winter now. Now the outside is getting moisture, and that's causing other problems like gripping the saw blade. So it's an interesting mix of environmental conditions creating all sorts of interesting outcomes for timber. So that's one, and you can see this crack goes down about 6-7 mil. Basically insisting I take 10 mils off the next one in order to get clear of that crack. But the other stuff it shows is, not sure what that is. It's interesting. I suspect it's another pitch pocket. A bit of stain there, a bit of mold stain. Some interesting staining around the knot. That of itself probably isn't too bad, but I don't like it, so I'll get rid of it. Some light staining through here. I can just see veins of it. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. I can see veins of dark staining through here, which is signs of mold. Slowly, or fungus, slowly creeping through. And here we've got a borer hole. Now, I always try and mark the borer holes when I treat them, which I've done in this case. So that's the borer hole that's relevant to it. I've marked it, so I knew about that, so I've killed the borer that's in it, which is ideal. It's not ideal it's there in the first place, but if you got one, you want to know you've killed it. So I recommend that. Always mark your borer holes after you treat them. More staining coming all the way through. It's like ribbons. More streaks. Oh, beg your pardon. Some really interesting features going here, and if you're an artist, you'd love that. Not so keen for my aircraft timber to look like that though. And more staining going through here. So yeah, some beautiful stuff going on. But in the summary, let's just check the sides as well. Okay. Somewhere along here I had that resin pocket. Oh, here we go. Down here. So here's that resin pocket. So I suspect 10 mil will get rid of most of that, but probably leave something underneath it. And the interesting question is, how far down does it go? For example, it'll definitely leave that. How far down does it go, and can I keep this section from, say, here onwards at the current dimension? Don't know. Right, 10 mil off this side. See what we get. Alright, 4 slices later. It's probably close to 20 mil again, if not more, probably more now. So the first one was to get rid of these cracks and signs of mold streaks, fungus streaks. On the underside, still got the cracks, and still got cracks showing through there, so they're clearly not deep enough. We're also following a borer hole. Take that one off. No, the borer hole does something different. So that's new. That's not showing anywhere else. So you can assume the borer has gone straight down, then decided it likes that piece and curved through, and ended up inside the saw curve. And that's a good sign, because it means another slice and that should be gone. Moving along, have we got any more cracks? No more cracks. But moving down this way, we've still got dark shadows through here. And a streak through there, streak through there. So still not happy, so take another slice off. Yay, the borer hole's gone. And on the piece we've just taken off, that's what it looks like. So it's clearly doubled back on itself and tried sitting down there, and the blade's probably gotten rid of the dead borer. So that's looking good. This is all looking nice and tidy. It's looking sweet. At this point we could say chop it off there and keep that half. Because down here we've still got signs of shadow just around these two knot holes. This is looking much better. Something strange going on here. Not too sure what that is. Don't like it. So take another one off. So flip this over. And shadows. I think it's still there. I think. I'm just not too sure. At this point I'm going to leave that and call that one done. This isn't a single length of 1.5 meters because of the knots going through it. So that's the bottom. That's the top. So this knot goes through to there. That knot goes through to there, and this one. So there's probably a piece along here till we get to this knot, and probably a piece along there. That may be worth something. But that's a decision for later. So pretty happy with that, so I'm going to put that on the stack. You might recall that larger piece that we took off to start with. It had angle grain, so that's one face, and that's the angle of the grain, 45 degrees to that. What I've done so far is I've sliced off the bottom here first, then took off this side, which was a triangle piece. Not that large, but small triangle piece. Then took off this side, no, that side and that side is what ones I've taken off. This was the original cut. And right now I'm taking off this triangle piece, which will then give me straight side there, and the final cut will be across the top. And at that point I'll reassess and find out what sort of lengths I've got. Right, that's that stick cleaned up. Grain's now in the direction we want, horizontal. Now we look at what happens next. So skimming along here, got a pitch pocket there which we've exposed. And I seem to recall, so there we go. Exposed that. Oops, there we go, that. Which looks like the start of another pitch pocket. You can see it's very similar to that one. So clearly another 5mm at least needs to come off that. Possibly 7. Moving further down, bit of a knot. That knot basically goes all the way through. So there we have our very first cut point. So I'll just pull out my trusty felt marker again. Just pull a line straight through that. So that's the first cut point. And moving further along, that's just cutting through the side. Ignore that for the moment. I've got lots of dodginess going on here, and it extends probably 15-20mm into the timber. So it's a lot needs to come off that. Further down, and again, we'll probably deal with both those at the same time. Further down, got a big swirl here, and that's caused by that knot. Does that go through? Yes, it does. Cool. So that'll form the second cut point. Let's go that felt again. And that end looks pretty good. Right, there's some staining on the top there. So the whole surface needs to come off. I'll just mark that. So the whole surface needs to come off by quite a bit. But at this point, I think I'll cut in those marks to give me those lengths, those two lengths. Actually, one's quite a substantial length. It's about 2 meters, maybe 2.5 meters there. And then I'll surface this face again for each of those. Right, get on with that. Right, so this is what I've got out of that. These are all should be considered rough cut. Just going to zoom in on each one. And lovely resin pocket. I'll keep hold of that. Right, so when I'm inside and it's nice and warm, I'll figure out how much actual timber I got out of that. That's the pile of kindling. All the pieces taken off the sides. And over here I've got 3 pieces which might contribute towards cap strips. The emphasis on the might, but I've got them one side to explore later on. Cool. And that's a 4" by 6" beam cut down. Rest of the timber went, some of it went in the firewood stack. And I see my sawdust bag is now full to overflowing. The rest of it went in there. Cool. I hope that was interesting and or useful. I'm going inside for some warm dinner and a cup of coffee and maybe a whiskey later. And I'll work out those dimensions. See you soon.